A great deal of effort is expended in our society today to make sure that a condemned man who is going to die because of capital punishment, that his execution is both humane and medically sanitary. That was not the case 2,000 years ago when Jesus or anyone was put to death by Roman crucifixion. There was no concern at all about humaneness or medical sanitation. When Jesus stood before Pilate in John chapter 18, Pilate responded to the Jews, knowing that they had brought Jesus there on artificial, trumped-up charges. Pilate responded to them and said, "You take him and you sentence him according to your own law." They responded by saying it's not lawful for us to put anyone to death. You see, the law of Moses allowed for capital punishment. It allowed for a criminal to be executed. But when the Romans had taken over the world at that time and that region of Jerusalem, they revoked that right from the Jews, and they could not put anyone to death. They had to run that through the Roman court system, and that's why the Jews brought Jesus to Pilate so they could have him put to death. The text tells us that after they said it's not lawful for us to put anyone to death, the next verse says that it might be fulfilled, the saying might be fulfilled, which Jesus spoke, signifying what death he would die. What did Jesus say? Well, in John chapter 3, verse 14, he told Nicodemus that he would be lifted up or raised up like the serpent in the wilderness. In John chapter 8, he makes reference to the Son of Man being lifted up. In John chapter 12, in verse 32 and 33, he says that if I be lifted up, I will draw all men to myself. The inspired comment by John on that statement of Jesus in John 12, this he said, signifying what death he would die. You take John 12, 32 and 33, and you connect that together with John 18, that this method of punishment, this method of death, this method of execution is how Jesus was going to die. Interestingly enough, under the Jewish law, most capital punishment was by stoning. In fact, Deuteronomy 21, verse 23 says that anyone who hung on a tree, who was executed by crucifixion, was accursed from God. That body should be removed immediately and buried that day, lest the land be defiled. Only in the marvelous wisdom of God could he take a Jew living under the Jewish law and create a situation where instead of being executed by the standard Jewish method, that he would be executed by this way. Again, the vision of God, the prophecy of all this taking place, fulfilling the statements of Jesus.